In this internet age, it's no surprise many Americans are looking for medical information online. But now more and more people are also sharing their medical histories, test results, and treatments with others on medical websites. Here with more on the trend and some tips to safely navigate this new online health space is Women's Health Senior Health Editor Sasha DeGersdorf. Sasha, great to see you again.
Great to see you.
So traditionally, we've generally kept our medical issues as sort of closely guarded secrets.
Absolutely.
Now, this online sharing seems to be a new trend.
It is, and it's definitely a booming trend. Now, I want to mention one thing. What you said before is that we're no strangers to searching online, and a new study that we found says that 61% of Americans look for health info online. Now, that doesn't seem that surprising. I'm sure we've all Googled some sort of symptom at one point or another, but what people are now doing is taking that a step further and sharing their actual medical histories and what's happening with them online in very, very specific health detail.
Now, does this seem to be something that's happening spontaneously? In other words, people are going to medical websites to get information and start sharing with other users?
Now, it could. I think it probably works both ways. I think a lot of it is word of mouth, of course. You know, maybe you've had a friend who had some success or found some interesting detail on a health community site, or maybe you're just Googling or researching a particular treatment or particular diagnoses, and you stumble upon one of these sites and you see all these people have been sharing, so you want to join the crowd and, you know, learn from them and maybe share your experience too.
And what are some of the websites you've checked out that seem to be good at this?
Sure. Well, there's a handful that we've mentioned in our article. Two that I like are patientslikeme.com, which was started a couple years ago. It's a great health community site. They have a particular amount of forums and really detailed on things like epilepsy or fibromyalgia. Another site we like is healthcentral.com, and that has, I believe at this point, 35 separate disease communities, which is great. So, you know, you go on, and perhaps if one of the diseases that you have or suspect you have is one of those, you can really learn a lot of information about it.
And there's a website also you mentioned that treats mainly women's medical issues?
And that's a fairly new site, and it's called curetogether.com, and they do concentrate more on communities based on women's concerns, which is obviously very nice for us.
For women,
Yeah.
absolutely. Fascinating. Now, obviously, there's got to be some benefits and some drawbacks to all of this online medical sharing. Let's start with the benefits.
Okay. Well, we also looked at a study out of California that shows that when patients swap health info like this, their collective wisdom is actually better than what they'd get just at the doctor's office. Now, that kind of seems a little obvious because you think, oh, you're getting more information and more, you know, possibilities, but also you need to remember that the psychological benefit is enormous. You know, a lot of times if you're diagnosed with something, you might feel really alone or scared, and you go on a health community and all of a sudden there's thousands of other people that have the same thing you do, and you can trade with them and talk about what might help, what maybe your doctor hadn't thought of something, and here's a new suggestion. So that's a pretty big benefit right there.
Very reassuring to feel part of a larger group. But how do doctors feel about this? Patients coming in armed with all of this information.
Well, I don't want to speak for all doctors, but I will say that some of the doctors that Women's Health talk to are very accepting and into the idea, as long as patients don't take the sites as their primary medical advice. So again, it's not, you know, concrete medical advice, it's more sharing of experiences. So what you learn on the site, you should definitely still take into your doctor's office, and the ideal scenario is to combine the two and come up with a plan that works for you.
Right. Now, what about privacy issues? I would imagine that all of this online sharing can invoke some serious privacy issues.
Of course. I mean, anytime we talk about online, we're going to have to talk about privacy, and especially with health details, which can be extremely personal and complicated, that becomes an even larger issue. So most of the sites, you may log on anonymously and become an anonymous member. And one thing to point out, privacy-wise, is that a lot of these sites are actually partnering with big pharmaceutical companies. And what the sites are doing is anonymizing your data and selling it to the companies to make money. Now that may sound a little scary, you know, just said like that, but actually what's happening is that the pharmaceutical companies are looking at this data and sort of changing the way they're doing their research based on that. So it's actually really interesting it's patient empowerment, because if there's a big demand for a new drug or a new clinical trial, the drug company can see that and sort of fast track one thing or the other.
But it's definitely anonymous. In other words, you're not going to start getting all of this junk mail from certain pharmaceutical companies.
According to the sites, yes, they protect your privacy, and you might also be on there anonymously anyway, so there might be a lot of layers of anonymity. But one thing that we say to be really careful of, privacy-wise, is there are some marketing sites for particular drugs or companies that disguise themselves as health communities.
Ooh, so what are some red flags?
So you want to be careful, and in that case, they would be using your information to, market their product. So you really want to be careful, and what you want to do is do some digging. So when you get to the site, you want to see who's the parent company, who's affiliated, is there a sponsor, and sometimes that's a little bit hidden. So what you want to do is really get in there, look in the About Us tab, the Contact Us tab, make a phone call if you want to.
Would these sites ever go so far as to make up patient testimonials?
No, I would doubt that. I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt and say no. I mean, I think that raises, an important point that a lot of our experts say is always approach everything like this with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Right.
We think the benefits outweigh the risks here, but you do want to be careful.
So that's the takeaway here. Bottom line is be careful, but the benefits outweigh the risks.
I think so, yes.
All right, Sasha Jagursdorf, thank you so much. Some great tips. And for more information, check out the September issue of Women's Health magazine. It's on newsstands right now.